Joining us on the show once again today, a man I can call a returning champion to this podcast. Of course, an interview with him has been a part of every one of these NCAA Press Row series we have done, as of course his team has reached a fifth consecutive Sweet 16 following their round 2 4-3 victory over Florida State. Welcome back onto the podcast, South Carolina men's tennis head coach Josh Goffi. Coach, it is always good to see you. Welcome back to the show. How are you and the team feeling with the Sweet 16 ahead?
Good, man. Glad to be here, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure. And again, just to start right there,
Yeah,
fifth
yeah.
straight Sweet 16. What does that mean to you and this team?
It means a lot, especially since the team we currently have is a little bit of a transition from that old crew that sort of broke that ceiling. With starting with Job and going into Danny and Toby and so on, and Connor's a big part of that, right? So, Connor stuck around for his fifth year, maybe whatever we want to call it, a sixth year, to help us out, and that's his dedication to the program. And I'm sure we'll get into him a little bit later, but he's done an amazing job of leading this younger squad into that same environment. And we talk about ceilings and floors all the time here in our program about doing it for the program. And I think this year's a really big year for us in the sense of the cards were up in the air. We really didn't know, where we were going to be as far as the quality of the team and the success we would have. To make the round of 16 with the squad we have, we feel like it's a lot of success, to be honest. And it's sort of consolidating the work from the previous generation, setting the floor for this generation as sort of this is the standard of the program at the base. And then once that's sort of set, and my philosophy as far as the way I look at growth is like once the base is set and you have a solid, sturdy floor, then you can start raising the ceiling again. So, we're really excited about where we're at.
No, and you bring up a couple of things I wanted to touch on, and yes, we will get back to Connor, I promise. But
Yeah.
you talk about just again a turning of the page, we'll argue, in the chapters of South Carolina men's tennis here this season. If I would have told you on January 1st, you would have been 21-7 and in the Sweet 16, preparing for it come May 8th. You think you would have believed me?
I thought there would have been a chance, but a slight one. There's always a chance. But yeah, it was not. We weren't thinking. I think I pegged us for a 15 to 25 team this year. 15 being on the great end and 25 being on the low end if we had a good season. So, yeah, take it every day of the week, man. It's been a great run for us.
Yeah, so impressive. And to your point, it kind of starts with Connor, who, after dealing with an injury last season, which kept him off of a team that had national championship aspirations with him available, to
Yeah,
see him have the moments that he's had. I think about just round 2, he loses that tiebreak in doubles, comes out, and what did Corey Craig hold once in what was a 1-2 victory for Connor on that day, and
yeah.
the SEC tournament semifinal, him getting to be the guy to clinch that moment. What does it
Yeah.
mean to you to see him have this sort of success in his final season? And dare I say, he goes on the South Carolina men's tennis Mount Rushmore now, does he not? 5 straight Sweet
Oh yeah.
16s.
No, no, no. I mean, yeah. I mean, look. We've had guys do some individual great things, but with Connor Thompson in the lineup, the team is elevated. It is what it is. He is college tennis to a T. He brings the enthusiasm, he brings the bravery, he brings the heart. The passion for the team. It's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal leader. But the most important thing is that he coming back from 2 knee surgeries. It wasn't just one, but then it relapsed and had a second one, and knocked him out last year. To come back and the road back that nobody sees. I mean, he suffered. He stayed around all summer, and he suffered more than any I've ever seen any athlete suffer. He pushed himself harder than ever, and he and Johnny went to work all summer physically. Didn't pick up a racket. It was just straight physical work. For him to be back where he's at and playing at the one spot and getting back to the top 15 in the country. I mean, God, I'd say he had a 1% chance of doing that, but that just shows you like the type of kid he is, and the days he didn't want to show, he did it for, we had the alums calling him, and those guys they're getting his back, and it's just it's a whole group effort, but with Connor being pushed to the top here, so phenomenal kid.
No, he was very funny. I asked him in the aftermath, who gets the first response from the text after the 4-3, his parents or last year's team group chat? He
Yes,
goes, oh,
that's
team
right.
first. I'll get to the parents later tonight. And
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
that just speaks to who he is, all about the team. And yeah, I'm going to miss him. I won't
Yeah,
say as much as you next year, but it's on the
right.
short list because it's just going to be weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to have college tennis without him. And, again, I sort of alluded to it. His response epitomized your team's response to dropping that doubles point in round two, to take 4 first sets, to have
Mm.
it be Sean, who happens to be the wins leader for the team in singles victories. Just talk me through the response you saw from the guys in round two.
Yeah, I think that was the do or die moment there, right, for the season, and the boys have shown it repeatedly this year. So, wasn't surprised, but again, the team. I think the doubles point they did it. They played a great point. We came out a little flat. We've been a little flat for 2 weeks prior to that. Coming off of an amazing SEC tournament, it took the semifinals took a lot out of it. Hosting took a lot out of our guys. They had the best time during that event. It was probably one of their great, for Connor, it could have been his greatest college moment there in that semifinals. And we came into that match knowing that, this is sort of the ceiling or the floor. We felt a little pressure going in there, not because we were supposed to win, because we wanted to win so badly, knowing that we wanted to continue the progression for the program and so on. And the boys take a lot of weight there, and they care a lot about what we do. And it showed there in doubles, and they came out there. We put the loss in the middle of the floor, as we call it, in the locker room. We addressed it as like, give it up, and yeah, you got to go fight for it. And they responded. They responded. We had a little sickness coming through. Dari Begi, believe it or not, was battling a cold all week and felt terrible during that match. But that just shows the fitness that our guy Johnny puts these guys through, the conditioning that he it's a dialed in to 8th month progression from the moment they get on campus all the way, so we can perform and outlast guys in May. And it showed there, even on not our best day. But to have Sean out there, the two guys you want left on the court in those moments are at this point are going to be Sean and Connor. Those are the guys that we're always looking for. And believe it or not, Cash Lucas, he's I think in the 3-all moments. I mean, the guy, I don't know. I think he might be undefeated in his career. I think he's got 4 or 5 of those on his bag. So yeah, I mean, I think we trust our guys going down the stretch. Whether we're down early in the breaks, the guys look around and they go, "We've done this too many times. We come back too many times. No panic. Just stay the course. We're really good in the 3rd hour of a match. So let's get this team here and hang on, and good things can happen."
Yeah, no, again, was one of the most fun matches in what was an awesome weekend of college tennis. And, you mentioned the doubles. 9 teams this year played. I'm sure some of that was due to injury, but that's high in the Josh Goffi count. That doesn't often
It is.
happen. I'm curious, what were you searching for here this season? How confident are you with that point headed into this weekend?
I mean, we've been pretty standard here for a little bit. We had some ideal teams, and then there's sort of the vibes inside a team can maybe go, and a couple things happen, maybe an injury here. We've had some guys step up. This is the first year in my 15 years of coaching at South Carolina that we have a depth chart that we can reach into, whether it be in singles and doubles. I mean, it's the very first time. We've always had amazing guys on the team, and some just maybe a little more limited than others, as far as and then depth chart goes. But right now, it's kind of sort of pick of the litter here. We can get, we reached out and when Casey went down, we thought, man, Casey's one of the best doubles players in the country. We really struggled there, and he's always manned the lower positions, but he's been an absolute captain and almost a guaranteed spot in the lower spots of the doubles lineups when he's forced to play there. And he's happy to do so. But when he went down with the injury this year, we were like, oh God, our doubles point was just starting to really start to rip here, and we were feeling really confident with it. He went down, and then, credit to Max, our big German stepped in, and he's dropping some major heat down there on court 3 and manning his position at a really high level now, and just sort of, kept it going. I think 3 is one of our best spots in dubs, and with him and Sean. And yeah, we're confident with where we're at. We've been working a little bit this last week on dubs, a little bit more to tighten up a few things, especially going into the Stanford birdcage here, and a little
They
bit
call
quicker
it the
environment.
Rage Cage, just so you
Oh,
know.
it's the rage cage.
Yeah, pretty
I like,
good. I
I
like that
like
name.
that. I do
Yeah.
like that. I do like that. That's fitting. All right, good.
No,
I can use that, Gruskin.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
good.
There's some ammo. He said it publicly on the show, so I don't think Coach Goldstein will mind me sharing that. Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
go.
We're gonna go into the Rage Cage. You can work that into your and don't tell the guys it's coming, so that when it
Oh
comes
yeah,
out, they go, "Oh, did you think of that, Coach?" Yes, I did.
that's all
Um,
me.
yeah, I like that. No, and again, I could ask you about every guy, but as you alluded to, this is a bit of a transition year in the sense that you have 5 freshmen on the
Yeah.
roster. And by the way, when I was watching Max serve at 3 doubles, all I could think is, yep, this is a Goffi guy. Like, I see
Yeah.
the frame, I see the serve. This is going to be
Yeah.
fun over these next 4 years. But to
Yeah.
ask all 5 freshmen to contribute as significantly as they have, I mean, obviously both Adekon and Gabe get wins this past weekend, crucial to that
Mm.
4-3 victory. What's allowed them to gel? What have you thought of this freshman class?
They're amazing. I mean, we couldn't be happier. These guys are all in. Um, they've got their group, and they're pushing each other. Gabe is an amazing culture guy. He holds those guys accountable. Max does a very good job, in the locker room, also outside. Um, you know, Adekin is sorry, I don't know if I lost you there.
No, I see you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so yeah, Attican is all heart and passion, man. These guys they all gel. Cole's part of the group. I mean, and we brought in Paul Barbier Gazoo, as a red shirt. He's training, getting ready for the next year. These guys, they're all in, and they love it, and they love college tennis. They get up for every match. The guys on the sideline are like playing every point with every guy. It's not about them. They're awesome. So we love with those guys, we love where we're going in the next few years.
Yeah, and again, not to. I like that you called him Cash Lucas earlier. By the way, that
Yeah.
didn't slip by. But I am fascinated. Like 5 freshmen versus Connor Thompson. Like, just what is that dynamic like in the locker room? Is it like what does it look like? This injection of youthful exuberance. How has he handled it?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's they call him Papa Connor, and because he is the granddad. I mean, he's the leader, and they look to him for a lot of answers. And Connor's done a really good job of not giving them all the answers and letting them lead. And we've sort of segmented. It's like, look, this is the squad. You guys are the squad. These are your sort of advisors. Casey and Connor are like your advisors almost at this point. But you guys got to really take the reins here this year, and because this is the next 3 or 4 years for you guys right now, including our sophomores. And so they've done a really good job, and Connor's really taken on a really good lead. Same with Casey, and they've done a phenomenal job of culturing those guys in. But yeah, there's a separation. I mean, that's like an entire generation almost between those two guys. Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's fascinating. Like I assume Connor gets the aux cord, right? Like that can't be a question. Or
yeah.
Casey, I suppose.
No, it's yeah. I mean, it always goes in seniority. Yeah, that's the way we roll. Yeah, yeah.
Unless you
No
want to
doubt.
roll with the aux on a drive, then you're like, all right, hand it over, boys. It's time to go old school here.
Yeah, yeah, we go chill in my car, and I got a few guys that like to come in my car, and they love it, and they love to chill and
Yeah.
talk. And there's other guys that love, the high, the hip, the hyped up beats in the other one. And yeah, we got a different vibes in each car.
Yeah, your car screams Bill Simmons podcast breaking down the NBA playoffs. Like that feels like the vibe. In a good way, by the way. I mean, that's what I would be doing in my van as well. And so no, I like that. And again, speaking of Lucas, to ask him to
Yep.
jump into a top 2 role. That's
Yeah,
just a
man.
difficult task for anyone. How would you assess his season? Again, 11-9 in a brutal SEC. How would you assess his performance this year?
I think he's done an amazing job.
Mhm.
I mean, Cash came in and played six for us last year, and and then all of a sudden you started seeing, I mean, in practice we've been seeing it for a while. This is a guy that came in. I think he was an 11-5 when he came in, but he had a frame, a huge frame. He had a nice lanky serve, and he hits a really weighty ball. It's not heavy with spin, but it's got a lot of weight behind it, and he's tricky to play, and he covers the net like an albatross. So it's he has a very good skill set to give a lot of people a lot of trouble, and when he's feeling like he deserves to be on the court with somebody, he doesn't lose. It's just he again. I'll reiterate, he came in as an 11-5, and sometimes when you're going through a developmental progression, it's hard for those guys to see themselves as a rightful deserving winner in that match sometimes, until they prove it. And he's had signature wins throughout his entire season, and even last year, and especially this fall, where keep your eyes on Cash. He's gonna be a good player, especially next year. I mean, he's gonna lift off here, I think. So
No,
but I'm proud of him, and he's really had to face a lot of his fears this year and doubts of whether he's a good player or not, and punch it through for us in some big moments. So he's done a good job. It's a great year for him.
no, him and watching Sean, watching Yolani, just all these guys. Again, you people who watch South Carolina tennis know the game style, know what you look to develop in these players, and watching all of them just seem more comfortable moving forward, seem more
Yeah.
comfortable being the aggressor. How long, in your experience, I don't want to say does it take for that to click, but does that trust to click to be like, oh, okay, I now see what coach is saying to me? Has that trust been developed, especially with this young freshman class?
It's starting to. Yeah. I mean, it takes a while. I mean, I think first year we really focus on the capacity to be there all the time, right? I mean, that's something that to play at a high level, you have to have a large capacity. So that's, that's from the fitness side, from the mental side, and then from there, once that's there, you can train at a pretty high level, and once you do that, then it's pretty easy to get them to start moving in the right direction pretty quickly, and then they start seeing it. But and some kids are resistant to that initial expansion in that capacity area where they got to put a lot of hard work in. But once they start, that becomes normal for them, which typically is about a year in. They really start moving. Sophomore year, guys really start to move. I feel like, and you can see with Sean, he's starting to come forward a lot better, and Jay as well. His volleys are getting cleaned up, and there's some stuff with each one of those guys that they'll continue their progressions and all that, but they're really starting to click on a little bit here too. And yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think next year is going to be a good year for a lot of these freshmen.
It's got to be really fun in practice to be like, hey, Jay, hey, Max, hey, Connor, can you guys just serve at me for a little bit, please? Like, it's not the worst repetitions to be getting when you've got those serves to go up
No,
against in practice.
no,
Some big looks,
yeah,
certainly. And, again, there was no time for rest in this 2025 SEC season, just given the
no.
fact you guys made that decision. Hey, we're playing everyone. And I'm curious, with a year of reflection upon that decision, how you view it, how it shaped this year's South Carolina team.
It definitely fatigued everybody. I mean, it was nonstop, and we got the brunt of it. We were gone. We traveled for 5 straight weeks. We had one match at home in 5 weeks, and it was brutal. And I think there's a lot of conferences with the expansion that felt that same thing. And yeah, well, like anything, we weren't going to change something without knowing. And I think now we may review that as a coaching group. We may review what we want to do, and connect with the ACC. I think there's some pros and cons there. I mean, the ACC, I've talked to a few coaches who are like, well, it's not fair that NC State and Wake didn't play Duke, and they're playing for the outright title. That doesn't seem fair, and so on and so forth, right? I mean, I think there's always going to be a miss somewhere. So what's it going to be? Um, but yeah, I think this year it was definitely fatiguing. I mean, we got to the end of the season, and it wasn't just us. You could see it in the rest of the group. But look, with anything, I mean, that builds resilience, and it builds the ability to get tougher and punch it through in the postseason. But yeah, it was running the gauntlet this year. It didn't stop. It just kept on coming.
Thursday, Saturday in the SEC as well. At LSU, at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M, at Texas. First of
Yeah,
all, 2-2 through that stretch. Job well
yeah,
done by the
right,
Gamecocks. There's a reason
right.
you're competing in the Sweet 16. What's that like? Like that back-to-back stretch. Take me behind the scenes of just again, how many airport trips? Like how do you get the guys ready for those match days?
Yeah, I mean, you try to keep routines, but a lot of, like you said, it Thursday, Saturday, and then you could play a Friday, Sunday, and then all of a sudden you're on the road again on Monday evening. Or you could be on the road and coming home on Monday morning because you missed a flight, which happened to us after one of those trips. We missed a flight, we didn't get back, and then all of a sudden the next day we're back out again on the road. You're just band-aiding things together. I think we got into A&M and had zero practice. Then we practiced that morning, maybe on the courts, and went to war. I mean, it was. But those are the things, and it's great for the kids. It's so great for the kids to go through stuff like that where it's like, look, it's not perfect, and we try to like schedule everything so it's kind of consistent, but like, take it on the chin, don't panic, just adapt to the situation, and we'll roll with it. And once you get through a few of those moments, the guys start going, oh yeah, like big deal. Like, all right, let's roll,
Yeah,
and that's when I think good players start to become, good players,
yeah,
their
yeah.
ability to adapt.
There's a reason the SEC has had the success it has had this season, and yeah, I can only imagine what that was like. A lot of time for bonding on the road, a lot of road trips, a lot of
Yeah.
bands, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
different things. Certainly, this team got to know each other well. In that vein, something I'm asking every coach: what match this season did you learn the most about your guys?
Oof. Well, look, I mean, so we got embarrassed at Clemson. I mean, and it wasn't that. That's not what I learned. I learned how they responded from that. I mean, that was the way they came off of that. And we looked to Clemson and almost thanked them. They're our rivals. We've beaten them, I think, 10 years in a row. Those guys are doing a phenomenal job up there. Um, you know, they came ready to go to war. I mean, it was just from point one to the end, and it was just an onslaught, and our guys were on their heels, and we let it roll. We didn't know whether we were going to play it or not, and as a coaching staff, we're like, our guys need this, and credit to those guys, they just kept on pounding, and so. That match didn't teach us a lot about our guys. It's the week and a half to 2 weeks after that match that really showed me who we were. I mean, they came out and they were pissed, and they responded in practice, and they got together, they started meeting, and were like, this isn't good enough. And it wasn't an anger thing towards anybody and pointing fingers. It was a mirror that got put up to the Gamecocks of, we were used to rolling in there and walking out of there with a 7-0, 6-1 victory. And we could be in our BC levels and, not even come to the table sometimes. And that's changed. And I think we're all excited for that rivalry. But that next 2 weeks really showed what we were about there. And then when we kicked on in the SEC season there, I mean, our guys came out, and I think we played Bama Auburn first. It was just, I felt bad for both the teams that we played that weekend for how much angst we had on the court and it just been building up since the Clemson match. And I knew from that point on, I go, yeah, we're going to be all right. We're going to be pretty good here.
Yeah, no, obviously what you guys were able to accomplish in SEC play, and then to get that SEC tournament at home, to have that moment. I know we alluded to it earlier, but
Mm.
it's got to be right up there, right, in the moments you have had on campus.
No, one of the best. No, I mean, like in my 15 years at South Carolina, it's got to be, that was like one of the best weekends that we've ever had. And yeah, making finals. I mean, I think we made finals last year. There's been some great moments, but that was phenomenal to have all of our fans there. I mean, we had record-breaking crowds coming out. The community just rallied around. The guys stepped up. It was awesome. I mean, it was really awesome. And yeah, and it's a heck of an advantage. And when you have a good team that can maybe have a chance at winning it, and when you have that, I mean, my God, what an advantage, right?
Mhm.
It stinks. You only get it once every 15 or 16 years, and so it's kind of terrible when it's like roulette. You roll the dice, and it's like, dang it, we don't have a team that can actually maximize it. But we had one this year, and we just came up short there in the finals.
Yeah, no, it was such a fun run though, and yeah, it honestly adds to the environment when you have those home crowds, and
Yeah,
again, everyone's packed in. I'm sure Texas loved competing against them in the final as well, and
yeah.
yeah, it's again a special moment. Connor clinching that semifinal one, certainly many won't forget. If you could go back in time, I found the answers to this question very interesting so far. What's one thing you would budget more time for practicing with this group? Could be on the court, off the court, whatever way you want to go. But what's one thing you would have spent more time doing that for this team?
Oh man.
I got to keep the questions fresh. I think we've
Yeah,
done this
that's
three,
good.
4 years in a row.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm always kicking my butt, like kicking myself in the butt for dubs. It's just, it's like I'm so obsessed with just trying to get guys better as just like a general tennis player that sometimes I forget some of the specifics when it comes to like the dub stuff, which, I take for granted a little bit every now and then with these guys that have great serves and they return well and they're learning how to transition. And I'm like, yeah, just, play good dubs. It's like, it's that simple. But, going back and it's like when we get obliterated by, Mississippi State played some really good dubs. They play fast dubs at us. And, we play certain styles of dubs teams where they just really come at us and their plus ones are just unloading into balls. We're like, oh, we got to get up to speed. And yeah, the mirror gets put up to me a few times, and I got to get better at that in the future. Just kind of steady dose of dubs.
No, like it's so simple. Come on, you see it. Like you know what we're
Yeah,
teaching, and you
guys.
know, in that same practice vein, we had head coach Matt Roberts on a little bit earlier today,
Okay.
which is funny to say because it's not even noon yet Eastern time, but it was a little earlier today. And he mentioned something you said to him last season at the NCAA tournament when you guys were playing a practice set and they were talking just how do you get your player to move on between points. You said three seconds. You get 3 seconds and then you're on to the next point. I
Absolutely.
find that fascinating. And I know
Yeah.
it seems like a simple enough concept. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, it goes back to the original Goffi, Carlos Goffi. That's one of his tenets, when he was a coach with even all the pros that he's worked with, is you get 3 seconds. Emotions are important in tennis, and for you to walk out there like a robot and, Fed sort of broke it for everybody, where everybody was just really calm. Emotion is fire, and fire is what creates some of the best tennis out there. But you got to manage it, and so having a positive or a neutral or negative reaction, you got to have that after a point. And so, but you can't carry that around with you. And we get so many kids that are just carrying the baggage with them, and it goes in, it bleeds in the next point, and all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, they can't even see the ball anymore. And it's just like a little creep in that just keeps happening. But the 3 second rule is something that our guys, I mean, you'll hear us just say next as soon as it hits 3 seconds, 4 seconds, something around there. If a guy's still carrying it around a little bit, we're just like, look, next, move on. And that's when we interject as coaches. We'll get out behind it and kind of switch the mind. But yeah, I'm glad that Matt held on to that one. It's really important. We get 20 seconds, and I've talked about this quite a bit on different podcasts. Like, man, the ball's in play 10 minutes out of every hour. It's like, so everybody's obsessed with how people are hitting the ball and their game styles, and that's great. But like most matches at a decent level are won between the points, and how you're dealing with yourself, and you're elevating yourself, and are you growing with the match? Are you getting better with the match? And that's like one of the most simple concepts, but it's very hard to do because of the emotional situation in tennis. And so 3 seconds is like, that's like step one, and there's like many other steps that we go through in between points. But if you're not working hard between points, you're not working hard at all. You're out there just kind of going with whichever way the match is going. So yeah.
It's a fascinating concept, and I'll ask you off mic for steps 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I
Yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
give away all the secrets.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, he was very complimentary. So I wanted to
Ah,
hear more
cool.
about that. I appreciate you
Thanks.
sharing that. Couple questions before I let you go. Transfer portal opens this week. Obviously, I know you're focused on the here and now in this 2025 season, but in the spirit of, or in the theme of roster construction, where does the portal sit for you?
It really doesn't.
Okay.
I'm not too interested. I mean, I do look at it. I look at it every day. There's always, we've got a few. I've got a few things that if we're going to take one. We took James Story. I mean, you have to have. I want a career guy. I don't want a 1 year guy. I don't want a 2 year guy. I want a career guy. Because they have to get into the culture and build. And it's I like to win, but I love this job. I love developing, and I love being with guys, and I love seeing them grow. It's it's part of where the passion comes from, and all that. So that the portal's great, but if you start getting into the portal over and over, it's a cycle that can't stop. And I think if you have large groups and you need to break up large groups, and yeah, there's a chance to maybe get a 2 year guy and this and that to just kind of recycle your recruiting that we all have to pay attention to. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of going in there and shopping for one-offs, because then you also have to do it over again. It's like my job gets easier as they get into second, third, and fourth years. They start leading themselves, and they start knowing the rules, and they start knowing how to operate inside of our locker room, and they are able to teach. If you're having to resurface an entire group, I mean, wow, that's tough.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense to me. In recruiting more broadly, how prevalent is the NIL piece of the conversation?
I mean, it's in there.
Mhm.
I mean, kind of, we recruited our brains out this last year. It was like some of the best recruiting we've ever done, and we got to the table with some of the best recruits in the world. And I mean, as early as our first conversation, great. So, how much NIL can you offer? And I'm like, we got to at least say hi first, and like, and at least like have a good conversation. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think I'm pretty publicly known for that. I despise it in a lot of ways, because um, and I think in the traditional sense, it's great to get your local tennis store to sponsor your guys or whatever, and to do some cutouts and help them out and everything. That's awesome. And if you have a great following and whatever, then maximize that. You should. And if somebody feels that you can be value to their company, great. But signing bonuses for somebody that hasn't done anything in this environment, that's like, personally, that's one of the worst things you can do for somebody psychologically. If a kid has a good heart and he comes in and he's on a 90% scholarship, those guys, in my experience, feel a lot of weight already to
Mhm.
perform, because they know that they took up almost 25% of your allotment, right? And so, like, those guys, they feel that. And if they're decent human beings, they feel that. And so now imagine throwing 50 to $80,000 on top of that. and the guy doesn't go, and all of a sudden the looks in the locker room start happening. It's not healthy. And
Mhm.
you'll start seeing, I mean, it's like you could, for whoever didn't see that the underperformance was going to happen for a lot of these individuals that were shopping around, then you're not paying attention to what's going on. But like that's an athlete's mindset is we feel pressure at all times, and so all you're doing is adding weight. Now, you get a job that goes into NCAA's, pay that man.
Yeah.
Pay that man his money, man. I mean that, yeah, good, but that's technically pay for play. So you can't do that, right? But that is healthy in our environment as athletes is you earn it, you get it, right? And because it's never given back, and then there's no pressure. It's like, no, 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 I deserve that because of what I just did.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how, so yeah, getting into a little, sorry for breaking off on the philosophy here, but that
No, it's
it
fantastic.
it triggers, man. It triggers. And I just feel like we talk about student athlete welfare all the time and we're like, we got to take care of the athletes. It's like, I mean, they're sending these guys to the loony bins right now, by doing this. And it's causing a lot of mental stuff going on for athletes. So it's like, it's speaking out of both sides of their mouth without really understanding.
No, I think that's a
Yeah.
very fair perspective. I always envision the best version of NIL for tennis is I think about if the local club I hit at growing up had two kids from the local college team coming to that clinic, and those kids are going to get some money in their pocket because all of us want to be there and around them and have that expertise as a 12 to 15-year-old. It boosts participation. By the way, all of us would then go to the matches that weekend. Like for me, that's the best case scenario. And
Totally.
trying to get there
Yeah.
we got some work to do.
We do. Yeah. We
Yeah.
do. And we all need to get creative here as coaches and come together and look, it's just like anything. If one guy does it, then the other guy has to do it.
Yeah.
And then now if two and it exponentially grows and now everybody's doing it and they don't know why.
Hmm.
And there's got to be you got to come together as a coaching group here and go, this isn't healthy for anybody. Come on,
No,
you
I
know.
agree. I'm going to get everyone to a diner at Kalamazoo, 2 drink minimum. Like you have to have 2 drinks before you're allowed in. And then we're just going to have an honest conversation amongst
Let's
everyone.
go.
Yeah,
Smart.
so I think
You
that's
organize it. I'll be there.
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
You got to help me find the booze of choice for these coaches. That'll be
Good.
our tough part. But last 2 questions for you.
Yeah.
Going to ask you to put on the pundit hat for this one. I know
Okay.
you are locked into your matchup with Stanford, but of the other 7 round of 16 matchups, and I can list them for you if needed, does one stand out to you as particularly intriguing?
I like the Mississippi State Ohio State one.
Mm.
I like that because I know what Mississippi State's bringing. Ohio State, they're tough, man, but they just got taken down. So, when that happens, that presents a little bit of vulnerability and teams, the belief starts growing of we can do it also. And so I'm also interested. I know Ty, I know Crow and those guys, man. I mean, I know what they're going to bring to the table here. And this could be a very, Clemson moment for their team as well, where they just turn on the afterburners here and run through the entire draw. And they could because sometimes that's what teams need. But also, I know what Mississippi State's bringing. Those guys believe and they're a good team. They're really shoring up at a lot of the spots right now. From what I can tell, they're
That's
playing
a
good tennis.
very good answer. I've heard a lot of Colton Smith, Rafa Yodar love. Hodar, excuse me. How could there not be? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
oh, that's
argue.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
That's
It's
a fun match to watch. And that's like watching a first round of a tour event right now. You know,
No, it's the level this weekend. As
yeah,
one coach framed it, the mayhem. The mayhem is coming. We're out on
right.
madness because that trademark's elsewhere. Mayhem is approaching. My last question for you. Obviously, you do have your own matchup. You guys are headed to the farm in the Rage Cage, taking on the Stanford Cardinal, your number 4
Yeah.
seed. Talk me through what you view as their biggest strength and what it's going to take for your team to continue to advance.
I think they're really good at home. It's a tricky situation to play in. It's an outdoor indoor venue. Plays a little quicker. There is a little bit of wind in there, but not a ton, depending on the day. The light filters in at different spots. The ball gets lost in the screens. I mean, there's a lot going on in there, man, and they're used to it. And I think visiting teams are not. So I think that's something they got going for them. They're very good at the 3-4 holes. There's maturity. I mean, those guys are just mature competitors. They've been around. I think is that Von der Schulenberg and Basing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those guys have been around the block. I mean, that's like having Connor Thompson sitting in your 3-4 hole, but you got two of them. You know what I mean? They're not going to panic. They're going to take whichever way the match goes. They'll adjust, and those are a couple big spots for them that are good. And Yeah, I mean, they're very good. I mean, 1 through 6, God, whoever they put in. I mean, these are the best players in the world coming from the junior levels, with all due respect. Um, but that's sort of what they've always had, and it's nice to see them kick on this year and win the ACC. I thought that was awesome for Goldie. And they're obviously doing a great job, and this team believes a little more than the teams in years past.
Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a battle. Very much looking forward to it. Always look forward to the chance to speak with you, of course. So, South
Well,
Carolina men's tennis
thanks.
head coach Josh Goffi, thank you as always for taking the time to chat, and obviously wishing you and the team good luck here this weekend.
Thanks, my man. Appreciate it.
Recording.